Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF World Champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 265 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined by, he's back. It is the former heavyweight world title challenger himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. It's been a couple weeks without you there. We've been doing shows pretty much throughout the entire lockdown, and you know what? We've been speaking to this. I hope you don't take this the wrong way, Eddie, and I'll explain. This is a conversation I was having with my partner yesterday. I was saying, she was saying, we need to go back to America soon and all this. And I was saying, I don't really feel the urge to go anymore right now. Because obviously I came out there last August, and then I came out there this January. And ever since I got back, we've pretty much done a podcast every single week. So I don't miss you yet, Eddie.
Well, because we ain't had no time apart, so to speak. You know what I mean? So yeah, you true. That's true. And I get you. It's
not like these podcasts are just quick 5-minute things. We're always on the phone for an hour to 2 hours anyway. So anyway, that won't be the case today. We're going to get through things very quickly. Like I say, episode 265. The interview that we have later on, it's going to be with a former IBF Featherweight world champion, Lee Selby. That will be BoxHard Podcast's 500th interview. So it's a bit of a milestone there. Episode 265. Ideally, we like to have two guests per show. So that would mean that we should really have 500 and... What's that? 500... 28... Yeah, that's 265 times 2. What's that? That's 530, right? So, yeah, we should have...
530.
Yeah, we should have had 530 guests, but really and truly, throughout this lockdown and stuff like that, it's slowed everything down. It's been difficult trying to get 2 guests on, especially when we're doing these big, long, in-depth interviews with fighters from the yesteryear. But anyways, sorry for rambling. Jumping into the review part of the show we're going to start with here, then on to the news, then we'll welcome our sole guest, and then we will do the preview part to finish off the show. And I've also got a question for you, Eddie, so don't let me forget about that. A trivia question, nice and easy this week, I believe. Anyway.
Oh, man.
You're not getting away from that one.
Give me something I can get, you know what I mean?
Anyway, review part here. We're going to start at the RCC Boxing Academy in Russia. We had a undefeated heavyweight on the bill, Magomed Kurbanov. He's now 21-0, a TKO for him in 2 rounds against Dmitry Mikalenko, who's now 23-7. But the kind of main attraction, I guess, I mean, there's another undercard fight I should mention. Evgeny Tishenko, that's the 2016 Olympic gold medalist. He took on John McCallum, a Brit, John McCallum. Anyway, Tishenko, the gold medalist, was able to knock out our man McCallum in just 2 rounds. That one was for the vacant WBO European Cruiserweight title. And yeah, like I say, the main attraction for me, Evgeny Romanov. He's now the WBO Global Heavyweight Champion. He's now 15-0. A KO for him in 2 rounds against, I didn't know he was still fighting until last week, Eddie, Sergey Lyakovich, getting knocked out in 2 rounds here in Russia. Which, by the way, while we're here, Eddie, just really quickly, because I don't want to go off in another direction, but it's just kind of jumped in my head now. The WBC, as we spoke about the other day, have decided to now announce this new weight class. I think it's from 200 pounds to is it 224 or is it 229? I can't remember. Anyway, it's going to be called the Bridgerweight. What's your thoughts on that, Eddie? Because a lot of people are not happy about that. But obviously for guys like yourself, like even a Usyk, even a Michael Hunter, guys that are not 6'6", 6'7" and plus, it's something you've been calling out for, especially you, for years and years. What's your thoughts? Is this good or bad for boxing, real quick?
Well, I feel like nowadays, the heavyweight division is kind of, it's kind of dated. So absolutely, if you look at the MMA and you look at the UFC, which is the biggest in MMA, their light heavyweight division is 205. You know what I'm saying? And obviously everything above that, but is heavyweight. But their maximum weight is 265. You can't be anything above 265. So I mean, the way we do things, and we're looking at it just because we're bigger men, you know what I mean, over 200 pounds, but you still have with the height and size and weight advantages, man. It's a little bit too much. I feel like this 224 if it's 224 to 200 is the perfect storm for the heavyweight division, and it should be. And I like the Bridgerweight thing, but I think it should be called the heavyweight division, and then the one above it should be called super heavyweight, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's something I think probably sounds better. And just to confirm, go on.
Think about this, Joe. Back in the day when heavyweights were, in those days the heavyweights were
I know what you're going to say, yeah, Rocky Marciano's size.
But all of those guys were in and around the same size. There was a couple guys that may have been a little bit bigger, like the heaviest guy might have been like 215 or something like that, maybe even all the way up to 220. But without that huge gap, like a guy 260, 270 pounds, and if he was that big, he moved like a robot, so he was easy to beat in other ways. But it was just like, man, there was never that same kind of advantage back then. So that's why the division now, I think, is dated, because now guys are that big and can move. So it's just really not that fair. It's not fair at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fair what you're saying, because, you you look at a Rocky Marciano and guys from that era there and even before that, and, what are they now? What's Rocky now? What was he?
He would be a cruiserweight. He was like a 188, 190.
I thought he was even less than that. But, yeah, anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So it's like, think about that.
Yeah, they're cruiserweights. But, yeah, times have changed, but the weights have stayed the same. But just to confirm, it is going to be between 200 pounds and 224 pounds. That's confirmed. Anyway, moving on. Like I say, getting back to the path we were on. Going over now to the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, California. Over here we had heavyweight Frank Sanchez, the Cuban. He's now 16-0, a KO for him in 4 rounds against Brian Howard, who's now 15-4. That one was for the WBO, NABO heavyweight title. Howard was down once in round 3 and twice in the 4th and final round. Also on the undercard we had Michael Polite Coffey. He's now 11-0, a TKO for him in 2 rounds against Joey Abel. Joey Abel was down in the first round and he injured his right arm in that fight, unfortunately, Joey Abel. Also on the bill, heavyweight Cuban Luis Ortiz. He's now 32-2, a KO for him in 1 round against Alexander Flores. Flores was down and it was absolutely terrible. I'm guessing you haven't seen the stoppage, Eddie.
I seen it.
Oh, okay, that's perfect. What did you think of that, man? I mean, geez.
I mean, look, sometimes you get in there with a guy, and I'm not trying to say this that he didn't want to continue or whatever, but you get in there with a guy and maybe you feel something, and then you start looking at the exit like, man, I want this guy to be putting his hands on me too much. And I don't know if that was the case. I mean, I think he threw a shot and slightly landed the body shot, and maybe his bicep did hit him, and he hit him with enough force to somewhat hurt him. But man, where I'm from, and from you think I would have been able to go back to the corner with my dad in my corner talking about I can't see, or I'm tired, or I'm dizzy, or I can't get up. Man, my dad would have beat me up worse than Ortiz would have beat him up. So you know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, you got to keep fighting, man. You know what I mean? If I could see if you're physically unable, but I just don't know if he was. And I'm not trying to clown anybody because this is a rough sport, man. It's a really difficult sport. But at the end of the day, man, something like that, you gotta try to continue. You know what I mean? Do your best.
Yeah. I mean, one of the worst knockouts I've seen. I don't know. Sometimes you see something that's so bad that it's almost good. And that's what I kind of think of Flores. I almost want to applaud him for going down from that shot because it's hard to go down from that shot. I don't think if Luis Ortiz hit me with that shot, I'd have gone down. It would have been difficult to throw myself on the floor, but he made it look pretty good. So I'm impressed. Yeah. It has to be said, Eddie. You know, it has to be said.
Yo, that's just like I'm trying to say it, but not say it. You can do it, Joe. I can't. You know what I mean? But the reality of it is, man, it was bad. It was bad. You gotta get up. Look. If you really can't continue, you know what I mean. It'll show. But come on, man. You know what I mean. You can't. It looks really bad. Really bad.
I believe that bill as well just had heavyweights on it, which is quite cool. But I think the California State Athletic Commission, I believe, I read something about their potentially withholding, putting a kind of freeze on his purse, actually, which I think is probably the right thing to do. Anyway, moving out now to the Bonita Springs Elks Lodge in Florida, USA. Over here, return to the ring for former two-time 154 world champion. 3.5 years out of the ring, he returns here. I think he's got to be about, I want to say he's about 47 or 48. Do you know who I'm going to say?
Who's that?
From the Kronk.
47 or 48.
From the Kronk.
Damn.
Former, like I say, 154, two-time world champion. He actually shared a sparring session with Tyson Fury. He's very small, though, in height, even for 154.
Damn, that's right in my... Wait, you talking about... Wait, was he? I didn't know he was a world champ, now that I think about it. Yeah, go ahead, say it, so I can make sure that I'm right.
You knew this guy was a world champ. Anyway, Cornelius K9 Bundridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
37.
Right.
Go on.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
37-6 now. His opponent Antoine Ellison retired in his corner after the fourth round. He didn't come out for round 5 of a 6-rounder there. He's looking to get back active. Cornelius Bundridge, a guy who shares the same birthday as me, actually. Anyway, moving out now to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, USA. Over here, let's start with the undercard. Filip Hrgović, the Olympic bronze medalist, now 12-0. A KO for him in 5 rounds against Rydell Booker, who's now 26-4. Booker was down in the second round, but like I say, TKO'd in round 5. It's led to a lot of kind of, I guess, media attention, because after the fight, Hrgović went to the camera and they said, who do you want to fight next? The first name that he said was Michael Hunter, and then he went on to list a few others, but of course that didn't take long for Michael to respond, and now he's saying, yeah, let's get the fight on. Eddie Hearn wants that fight. The Sauerlands, I think, who control Hrgović, want that fight. So that's a fight that I don't really like the fight, because I think Mike should be in bigger fights than Hrgović. Is kind of like, they're both low reward, high risk type of guys, I think, but I think Mike deserves a much bigger payday, a better fight than that. But whatever, he'll fight anyone at the minute, I think. Also on the card, the heavyweight 6'6" southpaw Chinese Olympic silver medalist Zhilei Zhang. He's now 22-0. A KO for him in round 4 against Devin Vargas, who's now 22-7. Go on.
Wow, Devin Vargas. That was one of my old nemesis from back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I fought Devin in the amateurs. He was a really good amateur, especially as a junior. And he actually, I think, was the Olympic alternate. I could be wrong. Where he was like, I think he almost made the Olympic team, something like that. I can't remember. But he was, that's crazy. He said Devin Vargas from Toledo, Ohio. Wow. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but the main Devin on the card, of course, was Devin Haney, defending his WBC World Lightweight title against Uriel Gamboa. Gamboa had a point deducted for holding in the 11th round. I don't think the referee did a good job, to be completely honest. The referee was Telis Asimenios. But yeah, 12-round unanimous decision for Haney, who's now 25-0. Yuriorkis Gamboa now 30-4. Do you know what? What kind of annoyed me about this fight here in particular was because before the fight, you know, Haney was kind of blasting Teofimo Lopez for fighting Lomachenko because Lomachenko was apparently really old, and Yuriorkis Gamboa is even older than Lomachenko. And what Haney predicted, by the way, Eddie, before the fight was he predicted he would knock Gamboa down 4 times, which is a strange prediction because that means that that means he's going to get up 4 times from being put down. But that was his prediction. He was going to put him down 4 times and he was going to knock him out in the end. And, of course, there was no knockdowns at all. And, he cruised to a relatively easy win, I think, Haney. I think that, as I've said before, I wish he had a bit more power. I think the power, as he kind of steps up in level, is something that's lacking. It's his best opponent, really, on paper by a far margin, a big margin, Gamboa, right. which is kind of frustrating because Devin Haney, when you kind of compare his record to these other guys, he doesn't have the depth of record that Gervonta has or Teofimo has or Lomachenko has in much less fights than Haney, by the way. I know he turned pro at about 16 or 17. I like the way he's been doing things, but his record is becoming a bit padded now. He hasn't beaten a world level fighter. I wouldn't say Gamboa's world level anymore. He's a gatekeeper at best. He hasn't beaten a world level fighter or anything near it, and he's a world champion, and he's being talked about as potentially being able to beat all these other guys without proving it in any sense against anyone. But yeah, swiftly moving on. I don't think you saw that fight, did you, Eddie?
No, I didn't. I was actually trying to see it, but it was on the zone, and I don't think I had subscribed or at the right time. I don't know.
That's cool, good.
And I wanted to see it because I also wanted to find out, was that fight with the heavyweights with the guy that I remember from when I was young that I used to fight, that I fought a few times. Was that fight televised as well?
Yeah.
Damn, I would have liked to have seen it just to kind of think about the past. And the funny thing is, he actually beat me twice, which is crazy, but that's what happened. But anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, moving out now to the BT Sports studio in Stratford, London. This one was on Tuesday, so a couple days ago. Over here on this card, let's start with the undercard. They had some kind of Ultimate Boxer tournament, which is some kind of like prize fighter type tournament where, there's 4 fighters, 2 fight each other, and then there's like a final between the 2 winners on the same night, all over 3 rounds. Paulie Malignaggi is involved in this company as well, so he was there. So we had Harry Woods 4-0 against the undefeated Mike McGoldrick 6-0. Mike McGoldrick was able to beat Harry Woods, which put McGoldrick into the finals, and Zach Chelly 7-1 with a draw was able to beat on points Vladimir Georgiev, who was 4-0. So it was Chelly against McGoldrick in the final, and Chelly was able to TKO McGoldrick in the second round. So Zach Chelly, 2 fights in one night. He's now 9-1 with a draw. Elsewhere on the card, we were supposed to see the debut of Jack Fincham. He's a guy that's pretty famous for being on the reality TV series Love Island, and he was a boxer before that. He was an amateur boxer. He had a few fights. He was going to be turning pro, but he had a car crash last week and broke his nose, so that put him out of the fight. Also on the card, Florian Marcu, that's the Romanian welterweight. He wants to fight Conor Benn so badly, but doesn't look like it's going to happen. But anyway, a good win for him. A TKO in the very first round against Muma Muiba. Muiba was down 3 times prior to the stoppage in that first round. And the top of the bill, Michael Lawal, now 13-0, a points win over 6 rounds against Ozzy Jervier. Moving out now to the final card to mention of the review part of the show. It took place yesterday at the Production Park Studios in South Kirkby, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. Making his debut on the card, Danny Murrell. He, like I say, was making his debut against Dow Arrowsmith, who was 2-37 with a draw. Danny Murrell is kind of a guy that Dave Allen bumped into once in a gym, and they clicked straight away. He decided to basically take the guy out of the gym and start kind of training him himself. He was like a mentor to Danny Murrell, and Danny Murrell, like I say, ended up signing with MTK, which is a big thing for a guy that hadn't had a fight, and I don't think he had any amateur background. So basically, Dave Allen has kind of, springboarded him into a bit of popularity, I guess. And anyway, he got the win. It was a nice and easy win over 4 rounds on points. And also on that card, we saw wins for Paddy Donovan over Jermaine Camaro. That one was over 6 rounds. Jack Rafferty with a win over Tom Hill. Rafferty now 13-0. That one was over 8. And a very good amateur by the name of, and forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Tursin Bey Kalukmet. He was 1-0. Very, very, very good amateur. I think he's Uzbek or something like that. He got in there with Macaulay McGowan, who was also a good amateur. 14-0 as a pro with 1 draw. It was for the vacant WBC International Super Welterweight title. Anyway, Kalakmet won the fight, so he's now 2-0. It was a brave effort from McGowan, but a points win over 10 there for Kalakmet. Anyway, that's it for the review part of the show. Just a couple pieces of news to quickly have a look at. And if anything else happens from now till the end of the show, I will discuss that, whatever develops from now till then at the very end. One kind of shame that happened in the news, it was a shame, is that DAZN, as far as I knew, were going to be launching in the UK on December the 4th or December the 5th, and they were going to be launching with Ryan Garcia against our very own Luke Campbell. Now, Luke Campbell has failed a test for coronavirus. That fight's off, so I'm not sure what's happening with DAZN's launch, because the entire card, I think, has collapsed now. So, not sure if the launch is going to get delayed or what, but hopefully we see that fight rescheduled. Povetkin and White, as we said before, Povetkin failed a coronavirus test. That one's been pushed back to January, I believe. MTK Global have signed another really good fighter from the States, this time Virgil Ortiz Jr., who I believe is 15-0 with 15 KOs. That's very exciting. And like I say, I'll get to it in the preview part, but there's been a few people test positive for coronavirus on Frank Warren's upcoming show in a couple of days' time. So positive tests have come back from Michael Rambaletsa, Casey Kadimi. He obviously is trained by John Tandy, friend of the show, and Masood Abdullah. So all 3 fighters off the bill, and obviously their opponents, I'm guessing. So that's a shame. That's a bit of a blow there. But like I say, that's it for the news. Getting on to the question, Eddie, I'm going to throw this at you just quickly before we bring in our sole guest. This one was sent in from Luigi Pelosi. He's a big supporter of the show, friend of the show, very good guy. He says, I've got a question for Eddie that he should answer easily. You ready for this?
I hope so. All right.
This should be quite easy for you, Eddie, to be completely honest.
This is a lob. We're going to find out. We're going to see.
Okay. So, who handed Marvelous Marvin Hagler his first loss?
Oh, Vito Arnif. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It was, I think it might have been either Bobby Boogaloo Watts or it's Cyclone Hart. I think one of those two. Or no, is it Cyclone? No. God damn it, what's his name? The other guy. Like I don't know. I just can't think of his name right now. Was it Boogaloo that did it first?
It was. You got it right.
It was Bob. Okay. I'm glad it was him. Because I can't remember.
You were trying to think of Willie Monroe.
Yeah, there you go, Willie the Worm. That was what I was going to say. It was either, I could not remember, and I'm so mad that I couldn't remember, but I couldn't remember who beat him first.
Yeah.
And at first I was about to say Vito Auto Inferno, but I was like, wait, no, that was a draw, and that was later in his career. I was like, wait, what am I talking about? It was two guys from Philly that beat him. And funny enough, I was in the gym with Bobby Boogly Watts for a while over at Augie's gym before it closed down. So yeah, man, I knew these guys. I ran across these guys several times. So except for Willie Monroe, I haven't really spent a lot of time around him, but Boogly Watts for sure.
Okay, so it's a win this time for you, Eddie.
Yeah.
I haven't been keeping score, but I think is it 4-2?
Yeah.
I think it's
2 and 4.
2 and 4.
Two
yeah,
wins.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good one. Shout out to Luigi Pelosi there. And
that was a good.
Huh?
That is still a good question.
Yeah.
It's easy for me because of where I am, and as far as geographically, because I'm in Philly or the Philly area. I was spent many times in many gyms there, so of course that's a softball question for me. But for some other guys, maybe not. Yeah. And just because guys are in the sport does not necessarily mean they have a great understanding of boxing history either. So I want to remind you that. So, but anyway, go ahead. You got it, man.
But yeah, anyway, that brings part 1 to a close. The final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former IBF Featherweight World Champion. It is, of course, Mr. Lee Selby. Lee, welcome back on the show, my man.
Nice one, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure, Lee. Always a pleasure, my friend. So we last spoke back in March, Lee. It was at that time, obviously, you were set to box Kambosos in Cardiff on May 9th with fans. Yeah. Instead, obviously, the fight takes place a week and a half ago in London. No fans at all. Before we get onto the fight itself, did you kind of feel that your performance maybe suffered in some way at all due to having no fans and the fight not being in Wales, Lee?
I think I think I would have performed better with fans and being in my hometown. But after being so long not boxing there, I definitely think I would have performed better and I would have been up for the fight a bit more.
And how different is it from a sparring session, Lee? And I ask this because you're a well-travelled sparrer. You've sparred guys all over the place. Yeah. Aside from the fact, obviously, no one had big gloves or headgear on, how different is it from a spar?
Yeah. It's still a lot different. It's just like a fight, really. But, in the gym, when I'm sparring away, I do perform a lot better. I don't know what it is, but I'm a lot better in sparring. But, like, the only thing I found was a bit strange with no fans was like chat in the corner, you can hear yourself like breathing and stuff. Whereas when there's a packed out arena, you can't hear nothing. It just felt a bit strange.
Yeah. And getting on to the fight itself, I've made no secrets in saying that I felt you won the fight. I remember going onto Twitter at the time and everyone was divided. I know you've only partially watched the fight back, but how do you think you scored it?
Well, when I was boxing, I thought I was winning fairly comfortable, and maybe like 8 rounds to 4, and my corner thought I was winning as well, so I was just boxing behind the jab and just keeping it simple. I thought I was winning the fight. The kid was he wasn't really catching me clean. He catch me at 1 or 2 shots. The rest were like hitting arms and gloves, and I just thought I was winning the fight. To be honest, although I didn't get the decision, it was like one of my easiest fights I've had. Like, after the fight, there was no marks on my face, no aches, no pains, or nothing.
And I think it was round 8, was it? It was a 2-minute round. Did you notice it all on the night?
Well, one of my corner team, he always times the rounds anyway, so he said that was a 2-minute round. and Chris Hannigan joked, he said, "Oh, that was good because you won that round," he said. But it was cut shots, and who knows what could have happened in that one round.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I had it in the end 9-3 to you, Lee. I had it really wide. What did you kind of think you did best, and what do you think George did best? Because, we heard a lot about his quick hands and stuff like that, but I criticise him because I think he had, he's got quick hands, there's no denying it, but I don't think he was throwing combinations. He was kind of just single punching, I felt, especially early on,
Yeah, well, I was boxing well, like with the movements and behind the left jab. The basic boxing, he was trying the power shots, but like they look powerful if you watch it back, but they were no different to any other shot that we dealt with. And like I said, he was hitting gloves, elbows, and seldom caught me clean. And when he did, it didn't have no effect. It looked like he was putting more into his punches. So I felt like I was hitting him like more shots.
And in your own words, you told me first time around when this fight got made, when we last spoke, you said Kambosos is the most important fight of your career. You said that, it's a must-win fight because, because of the stage you're at. Because of the manner of the loss, Lee, do you feel like it changes the significance of the outcome at all? Like I said, a lot of people had you winning.
I think so. And like I said, I thought I won the fight, but I just didn't get the decision. It'd be different if I got beat like fair and square or knocked out or something like that. Then it'd be time drawing on.
And what do you think you will end up doing next, Lee? I know it's early, obviously.
It depends, like what happens to my ratings and stuff. Like I don't want to be boxing like a European level, or like boxing for a European title or something like that. I don't want to be taking no backward steps. And like one thing I never want to do is like finish my career how a lot of fighters do, like being like sort of like a measuring stick or a stepping stone for like these prospects. I'll be out of the game before that starts happening. But like I want to continue to box. I want to be in a couple of big fights. I'm always going to be a credible opponent all through my career. I'm a former world champion. I've only lost 2 fights. One was a world title defense, making my 5th defense, and the other a final eliminator for the world title. And I lost one early on, which I thought I got the decision there as well. But like that's an irrelevant fight. But like I'm always a credible opponent. Even if I lost my next 5 fights, I'd still be a credible opponent because of my resume. So they should still be big fights for me, and that's what I want to be involved in.
And Lee, who are you actually with promotionally right now?
I'm still like a free agent. I'm not signed to anybody, and I haven't been for a while. So luckily, I can box on any shows.
Okay.
So I can box with Eddie Hearn. He's done a great job for me. I can box on any of the shows. I can go away. I can box in America and do a place.
And we knew that the winner of your fight would become Teofimo Lopez's mandatory. How do you feel George will fare against Teofimo?
He wouldn't last very long. I think he get knocked out.
Okay. And Lee, yourself aside, who do you feel are the top 5 kind of best lightweights in the world at the minute? Obviously, everyone's talking about Haney and Teofimo and Loma and Garcia, Campbell, Gervonta Davis if he's going to be back at 135. What's your order from 1 to 5?
To be honest, I haven't got an order, but you'd have to put Lopez as number 1 after beating Lomachenko. It's difficult to say. Like on any given night with those top boys, it only takes one to have a slightly under-par performance, which happens. You can't be 100% every time, and one to box out of their skin, and then they could beat the other. Like they all got great attributes. Lopez, he can box and he can punch. Haney, you seen him the other day. He's a beautiful boxer. Don't have the same sort of power as Lopez. And then you've got Gervonta Davis who can do it all. But again, he was taking shots by Santa Cruz. A bigger guy could have done some damage. But again, he's a masterful boxer, explosive puncher. It's difficult to put him in order. But like Lopez, after his win over Lomachenko, you have to rate him as number 1, I suppose. I don't know how the rest of the order goes.
Yeah.
But he has to be number 1. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And just before we wrap it up, Lee, if I always ask you this as well, if you've got any closing words at all, just to the listeners. Obviously, you've had such a good career. It's every fight you've been in, especially recently since moving up 2 weight classes. You've had exciting fights in every fight. To be honest with you, what's your message anyway to the listeners, my friend, before you go?
I just want to thank all the fans of mine just for the continued support, and hopefully I can be in some more big fights in the very near future.
How soon do you want to be back out, Lee?
Well, like I said, the last fight didn't really take a toll on my body. I feel fine. No weights, no bruises, no cuts. So I'm ready to go as soon as possible. But like with this COVID, who knows when I'm going to be fighting again? It's going to end a lot of prospects and the journeyman's careers, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. It is a shame. But listen, Lee, it's always a pleasure, my friend, speaking with you. Thank you for your time. I wish you the absolute best. I can't wait to see you in a ring again, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think so.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part. Just before we get into that, by the way, I just want to let everyone know, when we kind of do the Christmas special show, that's going to be... obviously, we put a podcast out every Thursday, so I think it's going to drop on Christmas Eve, I believe. I think Christmas Eve is a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that last show before Christmas will be the Christmas special. And, on that show there, we're going to discuss pound-for-pound lists. We're going to discuss Fighter of the Year, Knockout of the Year, British Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year, etc., etc., etc. So send in, or not send in just yet, actually. I'll ask on Twitter. But just kind of put your thinking caps on, get ready for that, because we want everyone to send in as many lists as they can. Like I say, Fighter of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Fight of the Year. I've got a little list actually here. Fight of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Fighter of the Year, Prospect of the Year, Young Fighter of the Year, Upset of the Year, British Fighter of the Year, and Most Improved Fighter of the Year. So send all of them in, and we'll also go over some pound-for-pound lists, which will be quite interesting, because I put together my list just a few days ago, and it might change. You just never know. But as it stands, my list, I think, is a pretty good list, of course. Do you want to hear my top 10 list, Eddie? You might not know everyone on it, though.
Probably not. But that's fine. I don't need that. Maybe I'm going to hear for the first time some guys I should pay attention to.
All right. Well, top of the list, I got Crawford. Second, okay. I've got Inoue. Third, I've got Canelo. Fourth, I've got Golovkin, which is controversial, but in my eyes, Golovkin didn't lose either of those fights to Canelo. So in some ways, in my head anyway, he kind of should be above Canelo, which sounds crazy, but it's my list. In fifth place, I've got Usyk. Obviously a great cruiserweight, but I think since moving up to heavyweight, those 2 fights, I still think he's world class, of course, but don't know if I can put him in the top 4, so I've got him at number 5. Lomachenko has moved down a few places. He was my number 1. He's now in 6th place, which is a bit harsh. Controversial one here. Not everyone will agree with this, but I've got Mikey Garcia in 7th. Simply because his one loss came to a guy that was a giant, and it was 2 weight classes up from where he was fighting, So, I thought he beat Spence, by the way, which, again, backfired horrifically, but he, against anyone his own size, I think he beats pretty much everyone his own size. I want to see him, by the way, in those fights with those lightweights. That's a name that we've forgotten about. We're talking about Teofimo and all this invasion of young guys. Devin Haney. Let's see Devin Haney, Mikey Garcia. Imagine that fight at lightweight. Mikey's a beast at lightweight.
Yeah, would be interesting.
Teofimo in number 8. I think he wasn't in my previous pound-for-pound list, but after beating Lomachenko and beating Richard Comey the way he did last December, he's definitely crashed into the list. Number 9, Jamal Charlo. I think, obviously a 2-weight world champion, great fighter. And number 10, I've squeezed a Brit in there, Josh Taylor. For me, hands down the best fighter at 140. Yeah. However, he's got some proving to do if he does get the Ramirez fight for all the belts. But anyway, moving on, like I say, sorry about the delays. Moving on to the preview part, starting here at the BT Sports Studio. It's tomorrow night, actually, Friday night. Top in the bill, the rematch between Mark Heffron, 25-1 with a draw, and Denzel Bentley, 13-0 with a draw. Both men boxed, I think it was a couple months ago. It ended in a draw. Some people had one guy winning, some people had the other guy winning, and unbelievably, all 3 judges had it a draw, which does not happen. It was a unanimous draw. Over 12, I think it was 12, might have been 10 rounds. Anyway, this one's for the vacant British middleweight title. Tommy Fury on the undercard, 3-0, no opponent just yet, I don't think. Also on the undercard, 3 other undefeated guys, Mickey Burke, Henry Turner, and Kalmin Agyarko, 7-0 is he. No opponents for any of those guys as it stands, listed on BoxRec anyway. Moving out now to the Wembley Arena. This one is somewhat history-making. It is a triple world title card, but all of the world title fights are women's fights. The 3 undercard fights, we get to see Cash Farouk 13-1 against Angel Avilés, who's 20-5 with a draw. We've got John Doherty 9-0 in a 10-rounder against Jack Cullen. Absolutely brilliant fight, probably fight of the night there. 18-2 with a draw, Cullen. And the free world title fights. So let's start with this. We've got Rachel Ball 6-1. She gets in there against Jorgelina Guanini, who is 9-1 with 2 draws. That one's for the vacant WBA World Female Bantamweight title. Obviously a late replacement there for Rachel Ball. It was supposed to be Ebony Isel Used Socks Bridges, but it ended up not being her, and in stepped, like I say, Jorgelina Guanini. So I'm not sure if she's any good, but we shall see. Katie Taylor defends her WBC, IBF, WBO and WBA lightweight world titles against Miriam Gutierrez, who's 13-0. That one's over 10 2-minute rounds. Somebody's O must go there. Not quite sure how good Miriam Gutierrez is, though. And also Terry Harper, 10-0 with a draw. She puts her WBC and IBO female super featherweight titles on the line against Katarina Fanders, who's 13-0. Obviously over 10 2-minute rounds. And Michaela Meyer has been calling out the winner of that one. She's desperate to get one of those. Mainly Terry Harper in a ring. And moving out now to the final card. This one takes place at the Bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada. Starting with the undercard. Friend of the show, Joshua Greer Jr. He's in an 8-rounder against Edwin Rodriguez, who's 11-5 with a draw. Go on, what was you going to say?
You said 11-5?
Yeah.
Edwin Rodriguez?
Yeah, this is a different Edwin Rodriguez.
I was about to say, what?
You're talking about the guy who was a light heavyweight, was he, I think?
Yeah. One of my favorite guys I ever sparred with.
He was Colombian.
One of the hardest spars. Yeah, he's tough, man.
I think he got knocked out by... Who did he get knocked out by? Got knocked out by... oh, man.
Mad Dog, is it Mad Dog or Big Dog? Top Dog.
Thomas Williams Jr. That's his name.
Yeah, and I expected him to beat Thomas Williams too.
Yeah, Thomas.
But
Williams,
things happen. Boxing is boxing.
Yeah, Thomas Williams knocked him out, didn't he? In about 2 rounds. Then he got the fight with Adonis Stevenson and got knocked out himself. I believe that was how it planned out. Anyway, but yeah. Joshua Greer Jr., friend of the show, obviously a guy that has ambitions of becoming a world champion, but he's coming off that loss, that very strange loss over a majority decision over 10 rounds in June, and that one was in the Bubble. So he's back in the Bubble, this time searching for a win. He takes on, like I say, Edwin Rodriguez, who, Puerto Rican fighter. I tell you what, he looks a hell of a lot like Emmanuel Rodriguez. I'm wondering if they're both related. They look a hell of a lot similar. And they're not too far away from each other in terms of weights as well. So maybe they're brothers, actually. Both from Puerto Rico, like I say. Or Puerto Rico when Eddie's listening. But anyway, should be a good fight. All the best to Joshua Greer Jr. I wonder if he'll be getting the pillow out. He likes to bring a pillow to the weigh-in, and he's going to knock his opponent out and all that stuff. But yeah, he should have beat that guy last time out, Mike Planier. They should have had a rematch because Greer was down twice in that fight. But anyway, leaving that there, moving up the card to the... I think it's a co-main. Yeah, I think it's a co-main. It's a rematch between Joshua Franco, 17-1 with 2 draws. He puts his WBA World Super Flyweight title on the line in an immediate rematch, like I say, against former holder of the belt, Andrew Maloney, friend of the show, the Australian fighter. 21-1 is his record going in. Very intriguing fight. I think he was doing really well in the first fight, Maloney. When he was boxing, he was doing really well, and then he seemed to kind of fight Franco's fight, and Franco's massive as well for the weight in comparison with him. And I'm not just saying this. I think it's going to be a really, really good fight. Of course, I hope Maloney wins the fight because he's a friend of the show. Franco isn't, and I hope he wins, but I hope he gets his belts back. But I'm not sure what the vibe's going to be like because Andrew Maloney went out there to the Bubble with his brother Jason, who of course just got knocked out last week or the week before to Inoue. So he's obviously had to deal with seeing that, and then he's had to stay there in the States for another 2 weeks training or whatever. I'm just hoping he can, he's in the right mind frame anyway. I spoke to him just briefly. If he wins the fight, we'll probably get him on next week's show. And the main event, Terence Bud Crawford, Eddie, 36-0, my pound for pound number one, obviously puts his WBO welterweight title on the line, and he takes on my very own, Kell Brook, 39-2 over 12 rounds. Intriguing fight a little bit. From the get-go, when it got made, I thought that, and I still kind of feel this way, if I had to put money on it, I've got Terence Crawford kind of picking him apart, too accurate, too active, and I think he may even get the stoppage late on against Kell Brook. However, Kell Brook has got himself into fantastic shape. He's massive for welterweight. Terence obviously isn't massive for welterweight, so that kind of size factor does intrigue me, because as we know, when Kell moved up 2 weight classes to fight Golovkin, it was absolutely ridiculous that he did that, and that seemed to completely collapse his career. He was doing really well. He was an active world champion. He had his eyeballs smashed in pieces, and he dropped back down, crashed the weight, and I think it was his very next fight he took on Errol Spence. Yeah, it was his very next fight. He got in there with Errol Spence. He come down, crashed the weight, and it was a great fight while it lasted, by the way. I think he started the fight really well, but then Errol Spence smashed his other eye, I believe it was. So anyway, since then he's come back with 3 wins. He hasn't looked amazing doing it, to be honest with you, and he... I think split with his trainer, then I think he got back with him, then I think he split with him again. I'm not even sure who is in his corner, but anyway, he's out there. It's just kind of, for me, it depends on what Kell Brook turns up, because I remember before when he went to the States and he beat Sean Porter for the world title, obviously a few years ago now, but when he went out there, no one gave him a chance. He was going out there, no one gave him a chance, no pressure on him, and he pulled off the win. And it was an upset at the time, a big upset. And like I say, to crash the weight against Spence, who's big for the weight, it wasn't good. It kind of, coming off that loss to Golovkin, everything was in Spence's favour, aside from the fact that the fight took place in Brook's hometown. To lose to Golovkin, no shame in that, man. Jeez. And then here he is against... a great fighter in Terence Crawford, but something's telling me that Brook's going to do well in this fight. I still don't think he's going to win it, but I think he's going to more than show up for a paycheck. I'm not sure how much he's getting paid, but I think he's going to do well. I'd love to see him do it. I'm a big fan of Kell Brooks, but I hope it's a good fight. I hope it's not one-sided like I initially thought it was. But as the fight's getting closer, I just sense something. I think it's going to be a good fight. Anyway, Eddie, how'd you see it?
Honestly, man, Kell Brook, the way he was, initially before those 2 tough fights he had with those 2 guys, I mean, I wouldn't have said he would have been the favorite, because I still believe that Terence Crawford is one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound. But I would have definitely given him a much better chance. And the fact, like you said, that he's a pretty big welterweight, strong, very, very good boxer. It would have been like, not a toss-up. Like, I would have still favored Crawford, but I would have been like, man, this is going to be a tough one for him. But like you're saying, I mean, I haven't seen him, but I guess you're saying he's in really, really good shape. He's I'm pretty sure he's out there. He has something he really wants to prove. A lot of people are discounting him because of the last 2 fights he's had. I guess not these last 2 fights, but the last 2 big fights he's had. He hasn't done well, I guess, now in these comeback fights or whatever, or said he looked really, really strong in them. So there's a bit he has to prove. He wants to get back up into the good graces of the people. He really wants to be able to showcase that he's still alive and still a live dog, and actually can still be a force in the division. And obviously, with a win over Crawford would definitely do a lot in saying that. It would actually, I mean, it may not, I don't know if you put him in your pound for pound list, but damn sure would definitely put him in a list somewhere on somebody's list, especially I'm pretty sure fans of him. But I just think at this point, Crawford's just too good, too sharp, too young, too, you know what I mean? Too and too much into the prime of his life, along with his boxing career, to be beaten by somebody that he should beat. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to say that Kell Brook isn't quality, because he damn sure is. But at this stage in his career, I don't think he'll have enough. And I don't like saying that, because people probably look at me and say the same thing. Like, would I be able to get out there and do something of any note at this stage in my life? And it's like most people would say no, it's unlikely. So I don't like saying that. But you got to be realistic. This is like one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, Terrence Crawford. So even if he did have something left and he does put together a good performance, it's still not going to be enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was trying to find the same kind of words as what you said there about the prime that Terrence, is entered, really, and he's doing so well. Like I say, since moving up to 147, and a lot of people were unsure, because when he vacated all those belts at 140 and he moved up, 147 was red hot at the time. They were saying, how long is it going to take for him to pick up a belt? Is he going to make that mark? And he has. He's won every fight since stepping up by knockout as well, so that's an even further statement.
That's great.
But I just think that, yeah, he's in the prime of his life right now. One interesting factor, even though Kell Brook is towards the end of his career, and I think his best days are definitely behind him. This would have been a great fight if we could somehow put Kell in a time machine for about 3 or 4 years or 5 years ago. But yeah, there's only a year between them. Kell Brook's a year older than Crawford, so the age isn't a big thing. We sometimes forget about that. And Crawford himself, this is going to be his 37th fight. Kell, this will be his 42nd. So there's 5 fights more there for Kell. And to be completely honest with you, in his kind of come up, I think Kell had quite a padded record at times. So it's not like he's took a hell of a beating, aside from in the fight with he's had a couple of bang-ups, but against Golovkin, obviously, which didn't last too long, but the damage was done. And Spence, in the later rounds, he really give it to him, didn't he? But I just think, I don't know, man, I thought Kell needed to retire when I saw him in some of those comeback fights after losing to Spence. I think there was one against Michael Zarafa. I think it was that one there. For me, he was so under-impressive. I thought, nah, man, he needs to go. Forget it. He's finished, man. Amir Khan, I think I'd favour over him and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I just think going out there to America, it's another kind of, it gives you that excitement, fighting away from home, no distractions. Knowing that you've got to win this fight, otherwise it's pretty much curtains for your career. I just think Kell Brook's going to give it his all, and I liked to see him with his t-shirt off in the shape he was in, because I thought, wow, he's really took this seriously. However, I hope he does actually make the weight, because that we could find out a lot on the scales, unfortunately. So I hope he makes the weight. He's brought a nutritionist on board and all that stuff. I hope he makes the weight, and I hope it's a good fight. I'd love to see him do it, but of course I can't really see him beating my pound-for-pound number one fighter. So I'd love to see him do it. Hope it's a good fight. Hope it's not boring. I hope, Kell doesn't run out of steam in the late rounds, and I can just see Bud's activity and accuracy getting too much in the end. I don't want to see Kell getting battered. That's something I don't want to see. So we'll see anyway. But yeah, you have to favour Terrence Crawford. But I don't know, I've just got this weird feeling in the air. The fight's gone under the radar, even over here. It's a massive fight, it's a really big fight. But over here, it's not going to be on Sky. It's not going to be on BT. It's been picked up by a kind of small channel called Premiere TV or something like that. And yeah, it's really gone under the radar. I just think without the pressure on Kell, I don't know, man. I can smell something in the air. I don't know. But we shall see. We shall see. But anyway, that's it for the review part. We gave Eddie his question. He passed the test this time. We did the news. If anything else develops from now till the end of the show, then I'll talk about that. We did the preview part. We brought in our sole guest. The final thing to do is to say goodbye to Eddie. Obviously, Eddie, this time we have tried to kind of rush the show as quick as possible. Next time, though, whether it's next week or the week after, whatever it be, you're going to do the lockdown knockdown segment again, where we move into the fights after Klitschko, which of course there's still some big nights in there as well.
No doubt about it. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we're gonna jump right into the one right after Vladimir, which brought me right out of my depression. but it was an interesting fight. So we'll go over it next time.
Absolutely. Well, like I say, Eddie, thanks once again for taking part in this week's podcast. And I'm going to come in with the outro in just a few seconds. But thanks, Eddie, once again. Okay, and this wraps up episode 265 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you, of course, to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the former IBF Featherweight World Champion, Lee Selby. Remember, Eddie's tough questions, Eddie's trivia quiz, whatever we're calling it. We need more questions sent in. Thank you, of course, again to Luigi Pelosi for sending in his one this week. But we need some more questions coming in via direct message for Eddie. So send those in to me at BoxHard Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. There has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. The Dubois-Joyce fight, which is set to take place on the 28th of this month. The undercard has finally been announced. Remember, it's not on pay-per-view, it's on regular BT. We get to see Hamza Shiraz take on the Spanish fighter Guido Nicolas Pito. Shiraz obviously 11-0. Pito is 26-7 with 2 draws. We get to see Jack Catterall obviously in that number 1 spot with the WBO. He has a bit of a tick-over fight, I guess. 25-0. He takes on the French-based Tunisian Abderrazak Houya, who is 14-2. That's over 10 rounds there at 140. Also on the bill, we get to see the heavyweight, the undefeated prospect David Adelaide. He is back again. We also get to see Jack Massey, and we also get to see Joshua Frankham. They're all in, their own little fights there. So all the best to everyone on that undercard. Like I say, really looking forward to that entire event. But that is about everything from myself. Thank you all for listening once again. It's always great that you tune in every week. We really appreciate that. If you do get any spare time, please remember to leave us a review on iTunes. That is literally the best compliment you can pay us. We really enjoy that. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.